Hello everyone, welcome to day 4 of Aussizz Conclave 4.0. We hope that you are excited to learn about this new latest updates on state nominations about NSW and Northern Territory. Now let me introduce you to our today's presenter, Ms. Sanya Shah. She is a driven, dedicated registered migration agent at Aussizz Group Sydney. With over 3.5 years of experience, Sanya has a strong understanding of Australian immigration law and passion for providing clients with exceptional service. I would like to call upon Ms. Sanya Shah and take this session forward.
Thank you, Advait. So to begin with, today's session is specifically for NSW and NT state nomination. As you all are aware that yes, it's end of financial year, the states are closing by the end of financial year, but this is the best time that you be ready and improve your chances for the next upcoming invitation rounds and the financial year round. Now, as you all are aware about the budget planning for the 2024 and 2025, many people were quite stressed regarding the invitations like the planning levels. But if you see the skill total visa about in 2023 to 2024 was 1,37,000 and it has just gone down to 1,32,000. That is a 5,000 seats of difference. But if you see the nominated visas, that is the 190 state nominated and 491, you can have an increase in the seats allocation. That is from 30,400 to 33,000, and for 491, it's from 32,300 to 33,000. Yes, for 189, we can see a significant reduction of seats. However, this is because of they are going to introduce some new streams by the end of financial year. So not to worry about if you have your skills assessment ready and if you can improve your chances in the current round, then you can have an increase in total to the next invitation round. Now, to begin with, today we'll be covering the state nominations for the NT and NSW. So how the session will go, first we'll be covering the NT nomination requirements and then the NSW requirements. And then we will have a question and answer round where you can post your questions and we will answer your queries. Now, to begin with NT, there are certain common requirements. That is, first, you need to be under 45 years of age and you must have a valid skills assessment plus a competent English level and have a minimum score of 65 points or higher. Now, there are certain streams under Northern Territory state. So first thing is first you meet the common requirements and now you need to decide under which stream you will fall into. First stream is for the NT graduates. These are for those who have completed their those who have completed their qualifications from NT, that is a minimum of 2 years of qualifications. After completing your studies from NT, you need to demonstrate your genuine efforts of finding an employer in Northern Territory. This way you can show by applying for jobs, advertisement, or interviews that you have taken. That way we can show your genuine and sustained efforts to obtain an employment in NT. The third thing is that they will be giving more priority to the critical sectors, that is the healthcare, education, and hospitality. That is for the NT graduates. Now, going forward with the other NT residents, that is for the skilled workers who have moved to NT for their permanent residency. Now, earlier in the last financial year, they only give nominations to 491. 190 allocations were closed in the last financial year, and this year we have to wait for the new upcoming release of the new requirement, but hopefully they will open seats for the 190 nomination in this round. But for other NT residents, you will be eligible if you have been residing in NT for at least 12 consecutive months, that is 1 year. And you need to make sure that if you have any dependent applicants along with you, that they need to reside in NT. If they're residing in NSW, Victoria, or any other state, then they won't be eligible for the NT residence stream. The third requirement is that you need to have a full-time employment for at least 6 consecutive months, that is before applying for the NT nomination, and you must demonstrate that your employment will be available for the next 1 year. This way, you can demonstrate with the help of a job offer and an employment contract from your employer, but you require a full-time employment for at least 6 consecutive months. Then the position must be based in NT, and the company that you're working for needs to be registered in NT for at least 12 months. You must be paid a market salary to be required for that. Yes, and now going for the third requirement is that if you are applying from offshore, for example, if you have a skill assessment and you're living outside Australia, and if you're applying offshore, there are 3 categories that you need to meet. First, you need to meet the common requirements. That is, you need to have at least 1 year in the nominated occupation in the last 10 years of your qualification. That means that you need to have at least 1 year of experience after your qualification, and you must demonstrate a genuine commitment to live and work in NT on a long-term basis. This is demonstrated to a statement of commitment that we submit to the NT department at the time of nomination. Also, you need to have evidence of financial capacity to settle in NT. The financial capacity depends on the number of family members you have in your unit. Like if you're an individual applicant, the minimum value of assets that you need to demonstrate is 35,000 and so on. And last is that you need to meet the criteria for each stream. For example, if someone is going for the NT family stream, then you must have your family member in NT who is an Australian citizen and PR and who have lived in NT for at least 1 year, and they will confirm with a statutory declaration that they will support you for the upcoming settlements and your dependents. The last is you must have an evidence of sustained efforts to seek employment in NT. As I mentioned, that this can be done through applying for an advertisement, and also if you have any evidence of interviews given in NT that can be demonstrated, and so on. Now, if you're applying offshore, the second category is priority occupation stream. For under this stream, you must have your occupation listed in the Northern Territory Offshore Migration Occupation List. So there are certain occupations listed in this list, and you need to meet the additional work experience required for this occupation. For example, if your occupation is marketing specialist, then there is a requirement of 3 years of work experience to be demonstrated for marketing specialist. Then you can apply under the priority occupation stream. And the last one is the NT job offer stream. This is for those applicants who have verifiable job offer in the nominated occupation in NT with an organization who is running actively in NT for the last 12 months. So these are the requirements for the NT nomination. So right now, if you already have a skills assessment, you can improve your chances through English and keep your application ready. And once NT is open, you can apply for the nomination application, because what we have seen from the previous trend that NT state nomination allocations closes very soon. Like earlier last year, they opened in July and August and they got closed in December. So they have only minimum slot available to make an application because of the limited seats. So right now is the best time to keep your application ready for the NT nomination. Now, coming forward to the NSW state nomination requirements. So NSW state nomination requirements are quite simple to go forward with, but there are various key factors that you need to take care before applying for the nomination. Because if you don't meet this requirement, there is a possibility that NSW might refuse those. So we will be covering those points as well that you need to keep in mind for the NSW state nomination requirement. Now, the first thing is the common requirements that you need to meet before going for the state nomination application. First is you need to meet the 190 and 491 visa requirements of Home Affairs. That is, you must have a valid skills assessment to apply, a competent English, and a minimum 65 points to apply for an expression of interest. Now, going forward with 190 and 491 requirements of NSW, we'll begin with the 190. 190 for onshore applicants, you must be either currently living in NSW and you have been continuously resided in NSW for a minimum period of 6 months. Please make sure that the residency has to be continuous. For example, if you have been living in NSW for 6 months and then you move to Victoria and then come back again in NSW, then your residency will start from zero. So you need to make sure that your residency is continuous for 6 months if you're onshore, and if you're offshore, your residency is continuous for 6 months. So for example, if someone is moving permanently from Australia to your home country, then you can be eligible to apply for 190 NSW only after 6 months of living offshore. So that is for the 190 requirements. Now going forward with the subclass 491 requirements, there are two pathways. Pathway 1 is for those applicants who are currently living and working in regional NSW, and you must be working with a single employer for 6 months for a minimum of 38 hours per week and maintaining a salary of 70,000. That is the minimum threshold limit of 70,000. This might be increased from 1st of July to 73,150. But right now, the requirement is you must be living and working in regional NSW for 6 months with a single employer, working 38 hours a week and maintaining a salary of 70,000. In this case, if someone is working less than 38 hours, for example, if someone is working for 20 hours, that is part-time, then they will be also eligible to apply under Pathway 1 if their pro rata salary comes to 70,000 annually. So if you think that you are eligible for this, you can still apply under Pathway 1 because NSW has not officially mentioned that they have closed their requirements for this financial year. And what we have seen is after the application, they are not targeting just the target sectors like education, health, IT, but all other occupations are also being invited if you meet this eligibility under Pathway 1. Now, going forward to Pathway 2, anyone living in NSW can apply for this EOI, which means that if you're living in Sydney for at least minimum of 3 months, then you can apply for your 491. You can express your interest for applying 491 regional. Once you're invited, then only you have to move to a regional area. Plus, but please make sure that if you're nominated for 491 and if your nomination is approved, then you will lose your eligibility for 190. So you need to be very particular about your opinion, whether you want to go for either 190 or 491. But yes, you can lodge both EOIs together and whichever gets selected, you can go with that first. But once the nomination is approved, then you will lose the eligibility for the other subclass. Now, there are certain key factors that you must know before applying for 190 or 491 NSW nomination. Now, first, how do you prove your residency in NSW? The main document that they require is the bank statement. That is, if you're applying for 190, you need to submit your bank statement for a minimum of 6 months from your main transaction account, showing your salary and everyday transactions. So mainly all your transactions, if you are buying any grocery, any fuel transactions, all they see that whether they have been done in NSW. So you need to make sure that your bank statement has those main transactions going on. And in addition, to prove your residency in NSW, you can submit your rental or lease agreements, your utility bills, such as gas, water, other bills, phone, internet, driver's license, etc., to prove your residency. Now, if you're planning to go overseas for a travel purpose, just like temporary, like I had few clients earlier, like they used to live in NSW, but they went to India for a travel purpose for a month or 2 months, and then they received an invitation. You just need to make sure that whenever you go for a temporary travel, you maintain your NSW ties over here. For example, you need to maintain your rental expenses that you conduct over here. You need to get your salary in. That way you can show your NSW ties living over here. Now, going forward, other key factors are that how do I know what date NSW deems me to be skilled in my occupation? So for the purpose of NSW, like if you're claiming your points for employment, NSW has particular requirement for claiming points of employment. This means that you can only claim your employment after the deemed date is mentioned in the skills assessment. For example, if you are an IT graduate and if you have 1 year of experience in IT in Australia and you got your skill assessment from ACS, then you can only claim the experience from the deemed date mentioned on the ACS letter. If you claim the experience before the deemed date, they will refuse the application. So any skill assessment body, if they mention a deemed date, then you can only claim the experience after that date. But if your skill assessment body does not specify any such date, then you can claim your experience after the qualifying study, that is after your relevant qualification. So this is the main requirement of the employment, where we have seen previous refusals where a client came to us for a consultation and they had claimed an experience before the deemed date and got an invite, but we had to forgo the invite because it was not as per the requirement. Now, secondly, how do I show my evidence for skilled employment after I have obtained my skills assessment? There are many circumstances when you apply for an assessment, you apply it on the basis of your current employment, you got a positive assessment out of it, but then you change your job to another company in the same position. You have a doubt like whether do I need to do my skills assessment again for getting my new experience assessed? The answer is, as far as the new company's position is same in the relevant field, then you are not required to do an assessment again. You can prove your experience for those company by providing reference letters, payslips, bank statements, contract, etc. The only rule that you need to keep in your mind is that you can only claim experience after the deemed date. So after that, whatever jobs you do in your own field can be claimed in your expression of interest, and you're not required to do your assessment again and again by ACS or other assessing body. Now, third question is, have been invited by NSW. How long is the invitation valid for? Now, the invitation links are valid for 14 days only. You must apply within this time. So they will not reissue the invitation if the link expires. So if you do not apply to NSW using your invitation link and wish to be considered again in future invitation round, then you need to submit a new EOI in the skill select. So you need to make sure that you make your nomination application within this 14 days of link required. And the fees required for the NSW nomination is $330, and which is not refundable even if the application gets approved or it gets refused. Now going forward with important information about submitting an EOI in Skill Select for NSW nomination. There are certain factors that you need to keep in mind. That is your EOI validity. Your EOI must remain valid for the entire assessment period if you are invited, which means the EOI validity is generally 2 years from the date you lodge your EOI. If you think that your EOI is expiring soon, like for example, it's going to get expired in the next 15 days or 2 weeks, then you must relodge a new EOI into that particular subclass. And once you are invited, if you are invited at 90 points and with the details, once you are invited, you cannot modify your EOI. Please make sure that they get to know once you make any changes in the EOI, it comes with the effect whenever you make the change, the date of effect. You cannot modify your EOI once you are invited. Even if you have moved to some other places and you haven't changed your postcode in NSW, do not go and change your EOI. It is better that you first attach a cover letter to the case officer informing regarding it, because if you modify your EOI, they will be declining your nomination application straight up. The third thing is you need to be sure that you select a specific visa and state in your EOI. That is, your EOI must be exclusively for the skill nominated visa. If you're applying for 190, then just select 190. If you're applying for 491, then you must just select 491, and you must just select the seeking nomination from NSW only. Do not select the state as any, like from any Victoria, Perth, Western Australia, South Australia. You just need to select NSW as a state. The fourth thing is evidence of claims. If you're invited, you must provide evidence of all your claims in your EOI with valid documents. And you need to ensure that these documents remain valid for at least 5 business days post application. So if you're invited and if any of your points are expired, like PT got expired or NATI got expired or an assessment got expired, they will not approve the application. They will not give you an extension of time. So you need to make sure that all your documents are valid. Like PT, that's valid for 3 years. Assessment, if IT, that's valid for 2 years. NATI, valid for 5 years. PY, valid for 4 years. You need to make sure that the validity of documents are appropriate accordingly. Last is employment claims. As mentioned earlier, in the expression of interest, you can only claim the employment after the deemed date selected. So you make sure that whenever you're claiming an employment, it's better that you get it assessed by the assessing body and claim it whenever the date that is mentioned in the assessment letter. Now, there are certain common reasons that the applications are declined by NSW. So first that we covered is the modifications of the skill select EOI post invitation. So it is crucial to note that any modification that is made to your skill select EOI after receiving an invitation will lead to decline of your application. So as mentioned, do not modify your EOI, and you cannot modify any of your points and not even any details. If you think that is wrong, it is better that you attach a cover letter to the case officer if there is any minor details that has to be changed, but do not go by yourself and modify your EOI in the skill select. Now, residency. To be eligible for NSW nomination, you must meet the residency requirement. Like failure to meet this requirement will result in your application being declined. So make sure you have proper residency documents with you. That is your bank statements, lease agreements, utility bills, NSW photo ID, etc. So that you have more documents to demonstrate your ties to NSW as a resident over here. Skilled employment claims, mentioning again that you can only claim after the deemed date. So make sure that if you're claiming an experience, you get it assessed by the authority so that you don't have issue of claiming points for after that. And points claim, you must provide evidence that you were eligible to claim all the points in the skill select EOI. So I have many clients who come to me and say that my skill assessment has not been received, but I have a reference number for which I have applied for in my skill assessment. Can I still apply for an EOI without the assessment being received? The answer is no, because you need all the documents validated at the point of time you apply for your expression of interest and at the time of invitation. So these are certain factors that you need to take care about when you apply for an expression of interest.
I would like to thank each and everyone for joining in today. I would like to thank Sanya for taking out time. I hope it was helpful. I would like to conclude the session now. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.